So
Okay.
I can scooch closer, right, you know, just don't look at the salad on the table.
Okay.
You want to switch.
No, I just made it.
That looks incredibly healthy, Counselor.
I try.
Good for you.
She looks away.
Are we live?
We are live.
Okay. Welcome everybody to January 22nd Downtown Advisory Board. I'm going to start with a call to order, starting with myself, who is present. Kirk Sun, here. Alan Pollock, here. Charles Weathers, not present. Roy McManus, here. Brian Bechtel, here. Sarah No. Okay. Agenda item number 2, the approval of our agenda. If there is no further discussion, all those in favor of the approval of our agenda say aye. Those not nay. Motion carries. Proceeding to agenda item number 3, the approval of our minutes from January 11th, 2024. So for the discussion, all those in favor of the approval of our minutes from January 11th, 2024 say aye. Aye. Those not nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 4, public comment. Anyone here from the public? It appears not. Moving forward to agenda item number 5, action item A. Does the Downtown Advisory Board approve recommendation of the Riverfront Downtown Urban Renewal Area 2025 budget to the agency board? Let's open it up for discussion. Unless there's a motion.
Looks like you made some adjustments from last time, is that right?
I did,
Okay.
I'll go through, let me pull them up here so that the person, or maybe two people who knows that's watching can see this too. Gotta share screen. Okay. All right, a couple changes here, and one was just grouping the project coordination support and indirect cost allocation plan and all the stuff related to the convention center in one area so it didn't interfere with all your projects. Because I found myself getting confused, and I thought if I'm getting confused, then someone else might as well. So I grouped those all together and put a gray bar under them so as to keep them separate from their individual projects just for readability. From the number standpoint, I've got new information on the TOT funds for marketing, so I updated that, both in the revenue and the expense side, which had an impact, of course, on the bottom line, but that wasn't significant. It went from 460 grand to 477. I did fill in the receipts in 25, which I left off on the last one, so that now washes that out for both the TOT receipts and the expenses, so that it doesn't look like there's a $500,000 expense is not there. And then the utility box wraps got moved back to the streetscape furnishings. And that's kind of the extent of it. There wasn't a lot of movement to do.
It looks like the overall increase went up by 5,000 total expenditures. Is that the adjustment.
That's
that we're
because,
making, yeah.
that's because of the convention center marketing piece, which is 520. Which isn't really a expense to you because it's reimbursed for watching.
So one of the things I wanted to just raise during this conversation, for your consideration to have is just about she's going to be taking to the council for a motion, for it to move forward and advance, and speed reduction, for pedestrian safety. The costs associated with that, it is $2,000. And so, because we're looking at the budget right now, that would be a project that we would, if it moves forward, for planning purposes, if it's something that the council wants to move forward, we would then have a fiscal for funding of that. So it's not on here, but since we're all looking at hopefully what the final is, would you feel comfortable adding a project in our new projects to back up what Councilor Stapleton is going to be talking to us about today? The best I could do is just try to get an estimate in preparation for today's meeting of what that cost would be. It could be the PET advance isn't probably going to be. I guess we could probably do that right away. Is what I've been told. It's the progression study that's quite involved to deal with the reduction in speed. So that's something that you're interested in taking and having Michael added to the final one before we make the recommendation.
I'd certainly love to hear what Councilor Stapleton has to say before we approve the budget. Are we able to go forward and then backward?
See what happens. We'll just put this on hold if you want to, with social chances. Why don't you guys all approve or reorder the agenda real quick to have Councilor Stapleton's presentation ahead.
Well, as an aside, but is there any other discussion on any other line item before we handle this specific line item?
There was nothing being changed around, they talked about estimate.
No, I mean,
Cleanup.
but yes, it's cleanups. The small pieces of cleanup got redistributed into either opportunity fund or to capital grant. So talking less than $100,000.
I'd like to put some discussion around the opportunity purchases, since it's such a large budget item. Whether or not that's a subcommittee or it's something revolving around this board to have a discussion with those opportunities arise, or to create framework to how those opportunities could be pursued by the city. I'm not sure how exactly the best way to do it, since again, we're anybody and we're here to support council, but however that's the best. Like, it's a lot of foresight. Block 50 was coming on board, and there was strategic goals there that were set at the very beginning that you guys use as your guidelines, but so I don't know if this now being wide open seems
So-
like it would be good to kind of go back and create what are the goals, are there areas that are the goal area, you know, so.
I think that's great, thanks for that. So we talked last time about we will be moving forward and doing the same thing we did for block 50 for North Block 45. As a board, we prioritized and took a look at what we thought would be the appropriate criteria for what we wanted to see in a redevelopment. Put that together, we took it to the agency board, that is, we have pretty much stayed, with the exception of adding public space. We have pretty much stayed with everything that the board had laid out for the criteria, the vision for that. We will do the same thing for block 45, because even though a large piece of that property is in South Waterfront, this particular board has always had the purview if the board needed to reconvene to be responsible for South Waterfront in addition to Riverfront downtown. So that will definitely be something that will become important. We can go back and take a look again and create a subcommittee for opportunity locations, because the board had a very methodical approach to, again, we talked about the site between where Co's is and where the Homer Hotel, we met with all those property owners, what we do a bigger project than just those two, as they bookends. We looked at the properties at the end of the historic railroad bridge. We had several different locations that we thought had an opportunity. We wanted to have money to put behind it. We can definitely work with real estate manager and see if there's any opportunity that we are unaware of that would make sense within Riverfront. I think, we bought 11 plus properties before I started working here up on Broadway. And that was redeveloped into Broadway Town Center, Broadway Place, and Broadway Commons. So we haven't gone back up there to even look at if there's something to build off of that. And so we definitely can do that. So I don't have a problem with that. That's just aside to that particular line item on budget that we're talking about. Yeah, that's not a problem.
I like the word you use, framework, as it informs the decision for the opportunity purchases, because it is a lot of money. And context matters always. But for example, we have the $100,000 planning study for the grocery store. I would assume, just as one illustration, an opportunity purchase in the context of the grocery store makes a lot of sense. So. Thanks. Is there any other discussion on any of these other specific line items before we ask for a motion for shuffling the deck? Okay, so I'd ask for a motion.
I do reorder item 6.5, swapping these two.
Great, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of reordering line item 6 or 5, say aye.
Aye.
Those not, nay. Motion carries. So we will start there at our new agenda item number 5, information report from Councilor Stapleton for pedestrian safety improvement project.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And thanks for taking the time to consider this. This has started actually a while ago. Councilor Nishioka and I have, since we've been serving together, we hear a lot from people downtown about the pedestrian and bicycle safety downtown. And so with the most recent deaths downtown yet again, I was already working on this with our director of public works, but I thought this is good timing that we're bringing this forward, because I think this is something that could actually save lives. So we are looking to change how our downtown core functions at intersections. So right now, whenever the light turns green, the corresponding walk signal goes to walking at the same time. A pedestrian lead time would give the pedestrians 2 or 3 seconds lead before the light turned green. So all the cars would stay on red for about 2 or 3 seconds at each change, giving folks who are in the crosswalks a head start. That kind of brings more attention to them as they're a moving object in an otherwise still environment. And it also helps them get farther into the intersection before cars have the right to turn and go. So that is the big change. The other one that we're considering is the idea of moving to 20 miles an hour downtown. You've probably seen this in other downtowns, Silverton is like that, several others. Just because it is one of those areas that was really highly populated with people in all the forms of transportation using And at some points in time during the year, really quite a lot of people are downtown moving around. So that is an idea. As Sheree mentioned, this would need a study done as far as timing for folks to be able to come through the downtown in a way that makes sense. And so right now, everything is timed for 25-mile-an-hour speed. It would need to be re-timed for a 20-mile-an-hour speed zone. So plus we add in those delays for the pedestrians to get the head start, that also works into reorganizing how the flow works. So those are the two things that we're proposing at this time. And we're asking, I have the motion here and I'll read it for you. It says, I move to direct staff to conduct a study and recommendations to increase pedestrian and bike safety within Salem's downtown core, specifically including an analyzation of the pedestrian lead times at intersections and the feasibility of reducing speed limits to 20 miles per hour. The study should build on recommendations from the Central Salem Mobility Study and be coordinated with work on designating downtown as a walkable mixed-use area and the implementation of Vision Zero and associated updates to the Transportation Master Plan update. So as you can see, lots of different things are kind of all layering on top of each other right now. I know even our work on scats, the safety group, that also would come into play as well. So lots of things are all shifting right now, so I feel like it's a good time to consider this. I had not been given a estimate on cost. It was quite different from what Brian had mentioned, but I'm not surprised. Things are always very much more expensive than you think. But that is the idea that we're bringing forward and hopes the council will approve that. Of course, still needs to be persuaded. But I wanted to stop here with you all since you are representing this area and see kind of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, how you're interpreting what we're bringing forward.
I think no one would argue doing everything in our power to make things safer for pedestrians. Sounds like you use different language, it sounds like making it basically function like a school zone.
Yeah.
But I don't wanna keep talking, but I just ask a question. We have to do the study in order to justify the change.
So I think what happens is that when you start making those changes, you're gonna cause ripple effects moving out from the center. So the study would be on how is it feasible to change that and what happens to the timing of the lights within the core area? Because those would need to adjust with the timing change. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the study is necessary as far as Public Works says, in order to make sure that that change is fluid and flows. Compared to the rest of the city, how it comes into and leaves downtown.
They haven't done it since the 90s.
Done what?
Studies. So what's in the downtown now is based on analysis that was done in the 90s. So that's one of the reasons why an analysis would need to be done. The cost, the cost is probably, yeah, because 1999 or something is what they told me. So it would make sense that things have changed significantly since then. So if you do nothing else but that, it would probably make sense to why an analysis would need to be done. And it's my understanding that like at every intersection, it's like more than $1,500 to just do the traffic count piece of a multi-phase plan of how they look at this kind of analysis. I can't say anything more because Kevin Hoffman will shoot me. I know anything about traffic. So, that's as much as I feel based on what I heard. I can say clearly you would want to have the progression in the study done to inform for the council. The ped advance seems easier.
Yeah.
Everything I heard is a progression study. That is where the cost. That's a very complicated study.
And we had a couple of near misses over on High Street and State. And they already did a ped advance there to help folks get across that intersection. And it, from what I understand, has been really.
It was, a couple of years ago where it changed the intersection of Liberty and Ferry to on that turn of Liberty going on to Ferry. And that was having to walk that a lot.
Yeah.
That was a huge change, because you used to almost get clipped by cars
All the time.
all the time.
We were gonna get the little flags at one point,
Yeah.
all the going across, that was Council Chesler, she really wanted it, but we knew that they would never get put back in, and we would see them all over in downtown, but that was. the
You
key.
now have the opportunity to get in the middle of the road almost
Right,
now, before
right.
anything's going green, which
So they
was a
could see.
huge difference.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, I see
that
value in that head start
Yeah.
for pedestrians.
They have a lot down by the Capitol 5 days a week. I was joking with staff, like, but then we have Saturday market where, you know, half of Salem shows up
Yeah.
and we don't have pet advance on any of those.
Yeah.
Because it's only on the weekdays, so we're working on changing that too, right? Because it's just really important.
No, I was just saying that, so the advance is just that delay, and that's, if council approves that, that's what we're going to add to the 25 budget, is that piece that,
No, I
Study.
mean, basically, it's the study, I mean, the pet advance and the study, I mean, I'm not differentiating it, I'm just supporting, motion to look at funding and analysis for pet safety, because they haven't, it's so new, they don't have all the specifics as to what it's gonna cost. My sense in talking to them is that the pet advance is not a $200,000 study, it's the progression one that is, but if we put that in the budget, we should.
so what we're discussing is just on the studies, not the implementation.
No,
of that.
not the cost if we had to put some equipment in or something new. But I think the equipment's there, it's adjusting it, for the pet advance.
Yeah,
but I
we
don't
can do it in an office, you know.
Okay, so that's the question,
Yeah,
so
but
we agree that this is a good idea, and council agrees this is a good idea, that pet advance piece can be implemented, and we're still talking study funding. Like,
Yeah, that is my understanding. What I would guess is that we would approve the study would come back to council and we would need to approve to implement the study. And I would come back to you all on it, if that would.
Couple questions. What are the extents of the intersections? Like, is there a road right now, part of this idea?
I don't have that, I really rely on staff for that. But I would, and it's hard because, right, you draw a line and then you're like, oh, well. Right,
What happens
that's
right
right on there, right? So it's really challenging, but I would assume, I mean, in my mind, right, downtown to me is like Union to Trade and front to. I don't know, sure, that's our boundary, yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. But again, rely on staff for that.
Do we know of, or have there already been issues brought up from ODOT, since it runs right through the middle of everything?
We
Would that
haven't,
be part of the study?
I'm sure it would be working with them as well. They are in the middle of doing a study, as their roads go all the way through downtown. So you bet I was on there taking the survey and saying, I need pet advance on all of these lights. So, I would hope that they would come to the table. in that same fashion.
If we didn't put anything on here, where would funding come from if it didn't come from?
If they come from a URA, we don't have any funding, right? So we would have to just say, we'll just have to wait. Whenever that gets sorted out, and the transportation fund goes upside down in about 3 years, so I wouldn't see anything. For probably next year.
Or we have to look at it. And it gets added through the rest of the budget process. If it's something that becomes highly recommended, that, I mean, ours is one of. We have, Michael help me out, that there's a DAB recommendation, there's a directors and the city manager, is there?
City manager, and budget committee.
So if it's not us, it could be altered by one of you.
But I feel it's important to start here first.
Pet advance considered like the best practices for city safety. Safety.
To my understanding, yes, I would need to go into all of the books. Get you an exact wording. Yes. It's becoming more and more popular because because it has such good outcomes.
Yeah, when I first hear it, I think, oh, you're gonna put someone out in the middle, and
And then-
oh, you're kind of like giving. It sounds like from the parent, it's.
In personal experience, it's right when the light changes, you step off and someone is trying to beat the light.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah, like you could step down.
Yeah.
yes, you can.
Now you're in the middle, you run to the other side.
Plus, there's the impatience, drivers get, the light turns green and want to go,
Yeah.
and so they're waiting, and they're creeping and trying to get in.
Well, and they're looking at the other signal to watch it go, yeah, I think mine's gonna go green.
Well, and that's what kind of makes me nervous about High and State Street, right? Because it's one intersection, or maybe we have a couple of them downtown that are like that, but the mindset is that we're all looking at the other lights, right? And so when you have a whole block set aside, that this is, this is not how that works. It all runs the same, that we're all gonna hold on for just a hot second, but to let people have a chance. So to me, that increases, just how things are gonna, I hope it goes smoother in that way, right?
I think the other is the number countdown, although nice, it's another one of those things for drivers that just
Yeah.
watch the numbers count down and know how much time they got to.
Yeah.
See, I could be wrong. I believe that what happens now is the numbers count down, but the hand sign is still red for several seconds because of that delay. So,
Depends on the intersection.
yeah, again, because there have been a couple intersections that the head crossing has been changed to give them, because of them, as you said, the one you listed.
Yeah.
Because there have been deaths at these intersections, so, I do believe that they established that red hand stays.
Consistency, I think, is good for drivers to know what's going on.
So you're saying that $200,000 round number is,
I'm sure that that's conservative because again, I was pushing people for the sake of we're gonna be finalizing the budget today. And if we were supportive of it, we would just draft it. So that's with our budget recommendation. So I haven't seen it go by, nobody's gone that far yet. So we're in the details, but I was given that on as an estimate on the high side, so I'm concerned.
I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but let's just say an allocation of whatever the amount is. Maybe it's a Michael question, but does it come from our allocation from our budget? It's an in-house study, right? This is a third-party study.
That would be for the-
Oh, it's a third, got it.
Yeah, the staff does not have time.
Chocolate.
They're trying to implement, all the things,
Okay.
so this would be third party.
Well, then to my next comment, and I also don't want to over engineer anything, but it seems like if we're engaging a third party, my thought process would be, I hope the scope wouldn't be too narrow. It would be ideal if we're going to engage a third party that's gonna look at just these two items of pedestrian lead times and 20 miles per hour, down 5 miles an hour. It would take into consideration another level or layer of scope as it relates to future sites or again, context matters of opportunity purchases or anything. Again, don't want to over engineer, but it would be a shame to not take advantage of the engagement, especially considering it hasn't been since the 90s. That shocks me.
Well, it makes me wonder, what was the study that was done in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And I know that the central mobility study that was done,
We went at that.
yes.
2013.
And there's some recommendations in there that have not been implemented yet, getting rid of double turn lanes is a big deal for pedestrian safety. We still have four, I think. So those are different, when you kind of include that kind of broadens it as well. I don't know what they would add. I'm not an engineer.
Shocking. Same disclosure, yeah,
So just to kind of figure out, there's feedback on what you're saying. We know that the northbound downtown. 277. We have North Lawn. But other than that, and 280 on Liberty. Other than that, we have a historic district, so we don't have a lot of vacant sites, and we're not going to continue that. So,
Good.
so part of what we can talk about with Public Works, if we put money behind this, is that we see, we're talking about it now, the north part of the town being where, I mean, we talk about opportunity purchases, there's not gonna be an opportunity purchase down here. I can't think of any. They're all, huh?
Today.
Today. Well, we're not gonna take down a historic building, we're not going to do that, to create an opportunity, that's not gonna happen. So we're going to be looking north, and so that would be a natural, is what we're doing, we want to be able to accomplish more. As Councilor Stapleton's correct, it's not just downtown, it's how everything is into downtown. That was part of that analysis. So we would want to make sure that they include however they're going to north to make sure that we know Front Street's but get us in and around in the north part of that. So that I could see that downtown is part of what still we're talking about, but going north. Is there something there? Just
Okay, any further discussion on this? We need to take this to a vote.
I'd like to make a motion to reallocate 200,000 out of the opportunity purchase line item to a new line item for pedestrian safety study. They will correctly to do. I will second that.
All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of a reallocation of approximately $200,000 from opportunity purchase for future redevelopment for a pedestrian safety improvement project, say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, nay. Motion carries.
So now you go back to for the entire.
Okay.
That was just, yeah.
Right, so now we're gonna, Michael making that adjustment, now we'll go back to the budget before we switch to the entire.
Okay, well, let's open up the floor for further discussion on the budget, unless there is none.
Budget.
Second.
All right, if there's no further discussion. All those in favor of approving the Riverfront Downtown Urban Renewal Area 2025 budget to the agency board, say aye. Aye. Those not, nay. Motion carries. Nice job, PAB. Okay. Agenda item information reports, number 2. Overview discussions of the 2025 draft downtown parking fund budget. Great.
Michael?
Michael.
I need to hopefully, where's my tissue? This is the
This one's
budget
not as
that
happy
brings
as
the
the
tears
last
out there.
Okay. This budget is essentially insolvent without outside help. The best way I can phrase it. The outside help in this case comes from non-departmental pay for security. And we're making the assumption that will be directed to keep 24/7 security in the parkades for next year. Which, by the way, Accordion Facilities is having a positive effect on reducing some of the facilities maintenance costs. Not by as much as we're spending on security, but nonetheless, there is definitely some improvement that they can see. And the other piece of help comes from Fund 180, which is you're sitting in right now, which you might have a lease on. This is something that was done back in 2013. and then stopped. And then the Chemeketa leasehold has been gradually putting money into Fund 255, which is a construction fund for parking structures capital improvements. So instead of putting in as much as we usually do into parking structure capital improvements, we're going to withdraw some of that and instead put it into ops in the form of subsidizing Fund 170. So a couple notes. I think some of you noticed last time that the the insurance, liability insurance costs went up a lot. That's the reason for that is because of a change in methodology that the city employed. We're self-insured, of course. But the distribution of costs underemphasized assets, properties that we owned before, and just kind of focused more on claims that were related to things that happened. And now it's been changed so that if there's a big structure that has parking in it that has a lot of potential for liability, then that structure is going to pay. You also notice the ICAP went up a lot. And that's because in about mid-year, about this time last year, we were getting very close to hitting our budget cap for facilities. So facilities deferred charging the parking fund directly and instead kicked their expenses into the ICAP, which is great technique, except eventually you have to pay the bill. So typically what happens, any expenses you defer in one fiscal year show up 2 fiscal years later, and that's what's happened here. So there were security and there were facilities charges that were added in fiscal year 20, either facilities deferred or security added in fiscal year 23. It's now showing up in the ICAP. So what I did in this one is I put in services paid in 25. I put in services paid from non-departmental for security as a revenue source, and then I took it out again as an expense source, just for transparency purposes, so that you all can see this is about what the bill is for 24/7 security in the park gates.
Question.
Yep.
You said security is coming out of the ICAP, and there's also parking security services.
Yes,
Yes.
the fiscal year 23 security was paid for and went into the ICAP that's now showing up in fiscal year 25.
12 is future security.
For fiscal year 25, we're paying for security through what's called non-departmental. So what that means is in fiscal year 26, your ICAP is going to go way up.
We're trying to understand the correlation between, so one's future and one's current, one's past.
Correct.
And then I'm looking, I guess the second question is projected 2024 spend was 98, so projected 25 is 4 times that.
Sure. The ICAP is computed usually in late December or early January. And essentially it takes last year's expenses and then it's assigned by cost center based upon responsibility for reducing the expense for the following fiscal year. So a few weeks ago, they produced the ICAP for expenses from fiscal year 23, which would have included deferred facilities costs and added security costs. And those went into the ICAP computed for fiscal year 25.
By added, you mean whatever was above and beyond what was allocated.
Correct.
Yes, whatever we have.
Correct. I think you had like $95,000 allocated to security, but we ended up spending over $400,000. So that fiscal year 2023 now gets kicked into fiscal year 25 via the ICAP. Also for fiscal year 25, we're paying for fiscal year 25 items. So that's why it shows up as both a revenue and expense. It's not truly in this fund, but I'm trying to figure out a way to show it so that people can see what it's for. But next year, your ICAP is gonna be larger again, because that's where it truly is gonna reflect.
So I don't wanna get stuck on security, but I just kinda wanna talk about that a little bit more, so. We talked about security, that is specifically mobile security for downtown garages.
Yeah, Pringles outside.
Okay, and that, so that 400,000 specifically, does anything else that's included in that, or is just that 24-hour mobile patrol?
It's 24/7 patrol, and of course, it's not just all on the vehicle, they get out and they walk the stairs and they walk the perimeter. But yes, they have 3 parking structures that they're going back and forth all day long, 24 hours a day.
What's the oversight that we have on that vendor? What does the city, how does the city monitor while you're getting for that?
Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have right here, because I'm sure they have our pictures with darts on it. So basically, we can reports daily that shows how many times they're in the parking structure, how long they're in a parking structure. Every encounter that they have with the homeless, where that encounter was. So Teresa, who was in here previously, she manages that contract, and I would say once or twice a month, she has right staff in here. And I feel bad because I know they've let several people go just because we're watching them. It's easy for me because I get here so early in the morning. I can see where they are and what they're doing. So, but yes, we have a lot of data that they give us on the services that they're providing.
And based on that data, the accuracy of the public is where we believe that it's having a positive impact on the downtown.
Well, we can influence what they do, and we have done that many, many times. When we had a lot of smash and grabs in Liberty, we had them focus and spend more time in Liberty. When we've had a whole bunch of racing on the roof of Chemeketa and issues on Chemeketa, we asked them to spend more time on the roof of Chemeketa. So we can, based on the data that we're receiving ourselves from the public, we can ask them to spend more time or move around more time in the different parkades. Clearly, Marion, was our biggest concern in the beginning, but that was the perimeter issue, but the stairwells were also the bathroom, which is why we're still paying the price for the damage to Marion Parkade due to the level of homeless that were in that particular parking structure. Liberty's been fascinating because it's an 8 to 5 arcade. We have residents there now. It's not like a Chemeketa or Marion where it's retail customers. Liberty is very specific to a different type of employee and a permit holder. And so I'm assuming that's why all of a sudden they were targeted for smashing grabs. It doesn't matter how many times we put the note up or flyer on their car that says lock the valuables. I left my laptop. I left my tools. I left something in the car. If you leave NyQuil bottle, they're probably going to smash and grab change or whatever. So it's been harder in Liberty to get that education there, but that's where we've seen an increase and that's where it's more vocal to counselors because it's a different type of parker and they get very upset when their cars get broken into. So we can alter where we want them to focus. They have to keep all 3 in their purview, but if there's more smash and grabs or if there's things going on in Chemeketa, we can ask them to take more paroles or be in a parkade because we're seeing and hearing about more instances.
Start seeing reports with the shred.
Ribbonwood, hopefully those residents will go over to Marion, which will help. Because the occupancy there is so low. So the more people there, the more will be. But yes, I would say for me, talking to Teresa, when Ribbonwood starts in Lisa, we will ask them to make sure that they have more visual presence over there to make the residents feel comfortable in being there, because that will be a change. That just intuitively makes sense to me. Then you have to change it. Do that. It's just like if there's a big event, depending on where it is, go to Liberty more because from Iron Man are going to be parking over there or more people in the homeland. We can pump it down. however many times we want to each day. So I feel good about that. And you know, if you have an issue, you can.
Yeah, I just remember when I came to that, I think the budget for security, I don't remember, it was much lower.
It was
Exponentially over the last
98,000.
Prior years, it's less than that.
Yeah.
So increased exponentially, so.
But we didn't have 24/7,
Right.
that was the.
Very paid. And so I am one of those counselors that's very local, because Golden Hotel was having their guests be broken into on a regular basis and their staff. And it became very frustrating. Staff, of course, were asked not to put valuables in, sometimes they would use them, but there were a lot of great things we were putting out much in the car. But there was a lot of opportunities. And so I reached out to Christian Weatherford and face people because only the job was really struggling. And the last thing we want our guests to be robbed and or terrorized in the sense that they're being broken into and then being saved and everybody. So anyway, I was a lucky out, but everybody was very proactive and recognized that to be precise. So she worked with me. It's made it really as I am not anymore.
Is Rank Security the only option as far as I pick the security company? It may not. And a little bit more help if there's another option that would be maybe more. How is that selected, I guess?
We went, Wright was not our first security company. I think it was Signal 88. Before that, and we had issues with their performance. We have to go out with the request for proposals, when we solicit those types of services. And we've had DePaul in the past, also. But they don't all provide the same level of services, so that you understand. You have an option also. So, you know, Wright would have been compared to the others. I can't remember. That responded and gave us and responded to what do you provide, how many people, what would it cost you. So again, there's a very prescribed process when we for services. So are you done with you?
$2.
No.
You know what I'm saying? What's happening? I know.
Have the $2 conversation. So, so, historically, there was big gaps in, when we recommended, when the board recommended increases in submitting fees. And so the consequence of that was, if you don't do it and then you do it, everybody gets very upset because they're used to it being $5 cheaper. And so the board made a commitment to do $2 on a regular basis. So obviously that isn't to the cost that you incurred in increases. But this just shows you what the current rates are and what they would be at $2. The last time we raised one, we did it daily from $3 to $5 because there was a big increase in demand for them. But we're not. This will be interesting because the goal is to go to a performance-based on-street system. So then I think we're going to see a significant increase in demand for the parking structures. And typically demand allows you to then raise those fees because that's what they need to be. They won't be able to park on the street. Residents want to don't need to park in the parking structure. Kirk, back to your question, last week. We had a meeting with the marketing consultant and I asked about your question about the zero minimums and the consequences. And because of the state's changes in that, they're working with a lot of cities on that. Cities like ours that have had free parking and now we have to go to a paid system and have impacts on their parking garages. The recent utilization study that we had reflected that at the time they did their study, we had 1,900 parking spaces available. So they're not, you know, it's not something on their radar, but they did when they did their financial analysis and they looked at the leakage from on-street from the pay stations, they took that into consideration. So it's conservative. And just so that we haven't done a utilization survey, we haven't had somebody come and talk about that for quite a few years, because we did them every year religiously, and every year it said the same. You exceed the 85%, you need to implement the system. And so finally I had, actually it was Brad Compton from the bank, who said, since we can't implement the recommendation, stop. We don't want to get easy tier, we don't want to take $30,000 because we can't do what they're saying we need to do. So we stopped. We did one with COVID to get a baseline of what was the impacts of COVID to on-street and in parking structures. And we did one now because we're getting ready to inform paid parking system. So I just wanted to give you sort of the highlights of what the report's going to be saying that was done. So occupancy increased and all of the spaces measured. Occupancy demand is upward at 5 p.m. Amount of vacant on-street stalls decreased by 24%. The number of unique vehicle trips increased by 15%. And really that's the really good one, because the unique vehicles are the number of different cars that take a parking space downtown. We've always exceeded the industry standard, very efficient in that. 2 hours is a lot more efficient because if you look at the data, most people stay an hour, 50 minutes, not 3 hours like what we have. But that will be something when we go to look at the right programming for a pay station, that data will be part of that discussion. But anyway, so we're seeing an increase in the on-street parking, which I'm not surprised, especially after hours, because enforcement starts at 8. So if I'm a resident, I can have 5 and I can be on the street because it's over. It's frustrating for all of us because we've seen such a difference in entertainment and restaurants. So having that competition, but we will take care of that. We'll change the management of our parking system, and we'll address the issue about the certain parking requirement too. It will be all part of management system plan that we'll need to. But I want to get back to you.
So as far as like, talk about pricing, obviously it's high demand now to buy a permit in the parking structure on street.
It will be. Yeah.
So what point in the timing of next year, following year, by the time we're actually having on-street day parking, does this get to only increase dollars a year, or is this part of the evaluation of cost?
No, this is only for right now, effective July.
Right.
This isn't part of looking at the impacts.
Is somebody though looking at
Oh,
it
yeah,
for
yeah.
that future now?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And
This is-
clearly,
this is our Band-Aid limp along until,
this is just to make sure that we're consistently increasing the permit fees because they need to be increased to cover increased costs. And we don't want to kick that can and have it be $25. All of a sudden, that's just not fair to somebody's budget or anything else. We try to be thoughtful to how we would increase it because we had that like $5 and it was very difficult for people to go from, you know, $25 to $30. And so we just made a commitment to try to make it smaller. Now I have no idea. I mean, the diamond lot is $110 a month. So we are extremely affordable. I think the one by Masonry Grill is at least $90 a month. And so when people have a problem with the parking structure, that is an option for them, but they don't want to go and pay the additional cost when we have a budget here that shows we're unable to provide whatever we're hoping to get with nothing. It's
So what you're saying is within this study that's being done, futures, this will be a new number that will be set for what parking structure cost will be at that point in time.
It clearly, there will be an analysis done that will inform what the cost of the permits should be. So for example, there's a part of me that thinks that whatever the going rate is for a permit, we might not want that to be going rate for a resident. We might want the residents to be less. That's just me because the residents provide a benefit differently than an employee does. But again, that would be part of everything that's being analyzed for the implementation. That would just be it could be the opposite of what the parking group says, because again, demand, the highest, they're gonna say street, the highest demand is per resident, that shouldn't be the cheapest, that should be the most expensive. Okay. I'm just saying that right now there's a part of me that wants to make sure that we show value to the residents.
Slightly different benefits of resident and employee.
Employees don't necessarily go to the entertainment, they don't necessarily go to the businesses or the restaurants like employees. Employees bring their lunch to work, they leave at 5. Residents contribute, in my personal observation, differently than what about business on.
What if the employee is providing the restaurant for the residents?
The employee piece has always been taken into consideration, which is why this is structured the way it is. We created the daily, so if you work less than 45 hours for part-time, if you only work a couple days a week, it's only $5 a day to park in a parking structure. It'll be $15 a day if you park on street. That's what it costs you. So we've always tried to have very affordable range of parking permit costs because of the employees, because we've heard that a lot from the businesses. We have part-time people, we have people that are on minimum wage. So again, you can park for $20 a month here down everywhere. So that's always been part of how the parking fees have been looked at. Liberty's different because again, that has a very different client base as who parks there than Marion, or not so much Schenectady, but Marion.
Is there a projected date for the street parking structure?
So that's an excellent question, and it's so hard to make it sound super simple because there's so many things that have to change. So if we put big parking out front right now, until it generates money, we would have to hold on to parking tax because there has to be some money to run the district. So until the paid parking revenue was sufficient, we would have to transition, we have a overlap period. But I don't know how long I'll be here, but it's always been staff's statement that we I would personally be supportive of paying unless I think the parking district is gonna go away when it can go. And that the parking system needs to, paid system needs to be something like a parking benefit district, where it's very clear what the benefits are to having that system, whatever that is. So there's all the SRCs that would need to be changed to eliminate the parking district. There's so many steps to implement the paid parking system. But we just did our first kind of kickoff with the consultants. And so hopefully I'll be able to have somebody come in and give you very regular updates and let you know the progression of how this is going. So I'm sorry, I don't have those students.
But we are hoping for the next couple of years to be
Yes,
fully
yes,
paid for.
absolutely. I mean, you guys have money in the budget. We had money in the budget last year, which jump started. We have the money to pay for the pay stations. So again, we know, but we need to make sure that we do the community engagement piece and the communication piece, the education piece. It will be a change.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, to build up on that, I appreciate your point of clarification on, is this just another year or a year and a half? And then to your point on how it impacts the different segments, owners of businesses versus employees. Like I hope and wish, because I know we're all eager, borderline anxious to see how this all unfolds. Because we want to do it right.
Yes.
It's be cognizant of how it impacts lower income and service workers. And I know that's part of the filter, and I hope it is really emphasized, because downtown looks a lot different in 2 years than it even does now, with the amount of units that are gonna be coming online. So we definitely, I'm sure we all have ideas for the consultants, and it'd be really important for them to hear it sooner than later as they start their work. It's like an architect getting involved later in the project versus up front. So all really good thoughts. So
I have a question that relates to paid parking or to bad debt write-offs. So it's the 30,000 and 35,000 writing off paid parking fines.
The bad debt write-off is those businesses who don't pay.
So this is tax, not there is parking.
It's just the parking tax, not all businesses pay. The parking tax, and so it has to be written off because we can't lien a business for not paying like you can.
This may be a dumb question, but how is it paid for the businesses that do pay? Like what, why don't they?
well, it's by property.
No, it's by business, it's not by. So the parking tax is like Chubby Valley gets invoiced a tax each year based. Yes, by the city, by the finance department, all the businesses get, because again, the businesses provide the free parking to their customers. I mean, hopefully everybody appreciates that, because that's who pays the parking tax. The businesses provide.
Is that included in our like annual business license that we pay? Where is this?
No, it comes from the finance department. They send out invoices each year. It's the calculation is in the parking district booklet. It says how, if you have on-site parking spaces, you get credit for that. Otherwise, based on the kind of business, there's a formula for calculating your parking tax. That's why the budget took such a big hit, because somebody like Penny's and Nordstrom's contributed probably 40%. In $25,000, $27,000 a year, each of them right off of program. Most of the businesses pay the minimum, which is, this is hard for me. This is the hardest part. So for over 2,500 parking spaces. Almost 50% of the businesses pay $460. Each of each. Yeah, when you lose the big ones. I mean, Macy's has no parking garage, but yeah, that's why it's been such a challenge for us to have money for those other things. But the parking, the model is just a thing.
I have a weak spot. So I know that businesses are struggling now because the parking situation. And when you say, can you hang on another 2 years, solve that, right? That might be hard to look at. I'm not a business owner downtown, so I don't know exactly what that feels like. Is there anything we could do in the meantime to help them with that? For instance, if council reduced the number of hours for equipment downtown, would that help in the short term as we transition to?
So let's see if I understand the question. So right now, you're hearing the businesses say that their customers are having a problem with parking. They shouldn't have a problem with parking when we're sitting on so many parking spaces in a parking lot. So the coveted on-street parking spaces, you're right, there is a high demand. So, you know, part of probably what would help is that people get confused about Liberty parking. It is an 8 to 5 parking. And I think people then, when they drive in there and there's only 3 customers and it says permit, I think that they think they can't go into the rest of the parking garage because it says permit. Well, really after 5, you know, if you're going to a restaurant or something in that area, feel free to park in a, you know, so probably something that says,
That's fine.
something,
Parking after 5.
yeah, something that says that by Liberty. I mean, Chemeketa, we put the little thing up that says at any moment in time how many are available.
Right.
I think maybe pushing, you know, something that says, you know, always parking available in the parking garage. The enforcement, I mean, 2 hours would be better than 3 hours, clearly, because somebody's not gonna sit on that, and you could. That's done by administrative order each year. That easily could be changed, but the gotcha is on the signs.
Right.
And every time we do that, it's like $12,000, and who knows now what it is to switch out all the signs that say 3 hours. It's very expensive. So for every action, there's 3
And
actions.
I see the library like just think over it and like, can we do something that's simple?
But you know, we can,
It's only 2 years. Yeah.
you know, it's educating, it's we have all those parking spaces, it's just people. We have that behavior change here to get people to get off of thinking they have to have it right outside, right into the parking lot. It's a behavior change. I have no magic bullet. And trust me, I think about that question.
It's always groups like this that sit together and brainstorm creative ideas that help in the long run, so.
So I have not a specific question, a general question. I think I know the answer. But can one of these funds loan money to another fund? Can any of the funds that are under our purview loan money to another fund for a short period of time? So can the Riverfront Fund loan money out of it?
So let's talk about that for a
I
second.
know you can't do maintenance and I know you can't do that kind of stuff, but loans are different than maintenance.
Riverfront, in my time, put more than $6 million into capital projects and parking projects. And they went to the agency board every year and said, we don't think that's fair, that we have to keep subsidizing the parking projects because of the management of parking. And so the goal was to, and they worked very hard with facilities to take the parking, they just kept kicking, you know, projects down the road because there was no money. until it became eligible for riverfront. That's about the time when I started working at the board. All new elevators, now it's not maintenance anymore, we need all new elevators, so again, it was like $6 million, but the board was like, get it back into a good condition. But then we need to keep it up, we can't wait until it's a big expensive thing again, because we're not gonna be. Or they don't decide, but that's kind of where we were, which is why, and we were doing so good for the first time, we actually were able to put money into the reserve and other stuff, and then between the loss of the large retailers and COVID and the increased costs actually from the homeless, that there was no way to get it. And we're capped, remember, on how much we can increase the parking tax, there's no way.
I guess my question is all more around the maintenance part of it, but. So your discussion was, well, you have to keep paying it, this has got to keep paying the tax. Until there's enough money coming from beyond paid
The
parking.
new system,
Can the riverfront loan money to the parking district for a period of time that allows the businesses not to pay, that it can stop at a date that coincides with flip to on-street paid parking?
so if we had our plans,
It's
remember,
right in there.
we have a riverfront original plan, that would not be a project in the plan. Projects have to be capital unless we're doing some kind of analysis that would support them, the capital project.
So I guess that's what so we could only do projects. you can't
Exactly, and the project has to be in the plan. Otherwise, I have to amend it.
So is the overlay, these two things, is it 3 months, is it 6 months, is it a year, like what can businesses expect? Because I mean, for me, when I think about this project politically. In order to move forward with paid parking, you have to get rid of the tax, right? We all agree on that. To have it now start talking about an overlay,
taxes yearly,
right?
so I paid it.
Sure. Sure, that would be great,
Right.
right? But is it a year overlap that we're talking about, or is it, does that make sense? Is my question?
Yes,
And
and
we don't know.
we just had the first
Yeah.
meeting with the team, with the consultants who will be doing this. I'm 100% certain that the financial analysis that will be done as a part of this will be able to answer that question easily, very easily, what that transition period. Because again, that will be part of, I think that's a heavy question. I expect that when we go out and start talking about it and giving information on how they use the parking system and educate them on where we're going, I can see that being everything. Yeah, especially for businesses.
Is that tax, the future tax, like you paying for the coming year, or you paying for the year that just happened,
No, it's effective July.
the business tax,
It goes out as of July.
and you're paying for the future year?
$460. For all those parking spaces, yes, July.
Trying to understand, it's the other
Yep,
way.
yep.
At the end of the year.
And it gets better because you have 2 or 3 options of how to pay them. Monthly. Quarterly. Try to make it really easy for a business to be able to afford it. But that doesn't mean it isn't a challenge. Yeah, I mean, the difference between this, what we have now, and a performance-based system is that the users will pay for the privilege of those spots if they want, not the business. Businesses can't. For the system that everybody needs. It's equitable, it's more equitable.
And it doesn't go to collections or anything, right? It's like the informations where there's a list where. Well, it can be like that's something. Oh, we'll follow up.
If you wanted to come in for a grant, let's say, you want to move to a new space, let's say, if you're not current, then you need to be current to access the grant. That's really the only piece. I do think that they go to collections. That's a finance question.
After-
They do go to collection.
Characterize your level of excitement for implementation of accounting.
It's, they're gonna be done. I mean, that's, you know, just personally, it's been approved 3 times to implement paper.
Wow.
Which is why I'm very grateful for council's support. But if it's been approved 3 times and it's failed 3 times, we're gonna take, we're allowing, we're being very thoughtful of how this is going to be messaged and how we're gonna communicate. Because we want it to be successful. So, I mean, lessons learned. But the timing is different and everything's all about timing. And that's why, you know, 20 years ago, now, I can't tell you how many people I run into and I say, can I help you? And they're like, we're looking for the pay station. And it's like, we don't have the pay stations because they're so programmed to think there must be, I have to pay. So it's all about timing. I think the timing is right.
You had a base station, so just outside of downtown, around it, that makes it even easier. It's the amount of tickets that people have like out in front of our building and the next half block. I mean, when those meters went in, we were parking tickets, everybody had parking.
Well, I'm hoping that that will make it easier because basically it's pretty much circled down. So that's all that's left. So it only makes sense that take the pay off and we make it more equitable. That's it. Would be better system.
We're looking forward to them coming in, sharing with us.
Yes, it will not be me, it will others.
I would ask Sheree that council can take some of that or anything.
Oh, the communication strategy will be very specific as to the audiences, the chamber, Main Street, neighborhood associations. We just haven't had the meeting to. Yeah, they were just selected, but yeah, the communication will not just be exclusive to DAB. They'll have a complete strategy as to how to communicate.
Well, we have 9 minutes left in our meeting and I believe that's, unless there's any further discussion on discussion of the downtown planning budget.
The main thing on the goal today is there anything you want Michael to change? Because on the 8th, he brings back one, just like we did today at Riverfront, for final recommendation. So remember 2 steps. You look at it today, you want any changes, he makes it, he brings it back on the page with those changes, and then you recommend it forward to council.
Well, memory serves me right, the $2 is consistent with what we've done in the past, except for the COVID year, I think we paused it.
Yeah.
Right, so to me, it looks okay. So I guess we'll see it on the 8th at our DAB meeting. Okay. Unless anyone has any further comments for Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, if anyone else or Sheree, if there's nothing more, we can proceed to adjourn, but does anybody have anything else really gonna be ordered? Or wish list for future presentations or information reports? Maybe across the street or.
You approved Riverfront. This was parking on that LA.
Well, I'll just say, we would love an update on what's going on across the street, at some point in the near future.
As soon as they can.
Awesome. And, in the near future, it would be great to talk about how we put together this subcommittee for the North Block 45.
We'll have two, we'll have North Rockport 5, and then we'll have opportunity, acquisitions, we'll have two subcommittees, so if we think, you know, if that's something that you're interested in, we'll have to take the minutes, they have to get noticed. But again, we can have more conversation and not bother everybody through any numbering. So, and anybody who's gonna do that, thank you in advance. I appreciate that.
That's all I got, unless there's anything else. I think we can adjourn. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, staff. Thank you, Michael.